The wind sang through the canyons that evening, low and lonely, like a hymn only the desert knew. Dust rolled in soft waves across the open plains, turning gold under the dying sun. Clara Ridge tightened the reins of her old bay mare, Scout, squinting toward the horizon. She had been out since morning, checking fences and rounding up the few cattle that hadn't wandered too far from her land. It was a hard life, one she'd chosen when the world offered her no one left to choose. 3 winters had passed since her father's death, and though the ranch still bore his name, Ridge Creek, it was little more than a memory now. Clara had grown used to the silence that filled her evenings, the creak of the windmill, the whisper of coyotes in the distance. She was 26, with the kind of strength that didn't come from muscle but from survival. Folks in town called her, the lonely cowgirl, though never to her face. She was kind, but distant, brave, but tired. As twilight deepened, a strange sound cut through the quiet, something between a groan and a cry. Clara froze. Scout's ears twitched toward the ravine near the creek. She slid from the saddle, boots crunching in the dry grass. For a moment, only the wind answered. Then she heard it again, closer this time, a man's voice, weak and ragged. "Help! Someone, please." Clara's heart kicked against her ribs. She moved cautiously toward the sound, her hand resting on the revolver at her hip. In the fading light, she saw him, a man sprawled in the dirt at the edge of the ravine, blood seeping through his torn shirt. His face was caked with dust and sweat, his breathing shallow. He couldn't have been more than 30. "What happened to you?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "Ambush," he rasped. "Outlaws. Took our horses, left me for dead." Clara didn't hesitate. She tore a strip from her own sleeve and pressed it against the wound in his side. It was deep, but not mortal, not yet. "You're lucky I came by," she murmured. "Don't feel lucky," he managed, wincing. "Then let's change that," she said firmly. She half dragged, half lifted him onto Scout and walked the 2 miles back to her ranch under a blood-red sky. By the time she laid him on her bed, he had passed out cold. She worked through the night, cleaning his wound, boiling water, stitching torn flesh with trembling hands. She wasn't a nurse, but years of patching up cattle and her father's injuries had taught her what survival required. By dawn, the man stirred. Clara was sitting by the window, watching the light crawl over the valley. When he opened his eyes, confusion flickered across his face. "You're awake," she said softly. He blinked. "Where am I?" "Ridge Creek Ranch. I found you bleeding out by the ravine. Figured you'd prefer a roof to the buzzards." A weak smile tugged at his lips. "You figured right. Name's Luke Harper." She nodded. "Clara Ridge." He tried to sit up but winced. "How bad is it?" "You'll live," she said, pouring him a glass of water. "But you'll be staying put a few days." "Ma'am," he said, voice hoarse, "you've done more than I deserve." "I didn't do it for gratitude," she replied. "I did it because it was right." Over the next few days, Clara tended to him as best she could. Luke was a quiet man, but there was a steadiness in his gaze, a rough kindness that reminded her of her father. He told her bits and pieces about the ambush, how he and his brothers were driving a herd to Silver Ridge when a gang of rustlers hit them out of nowhere. He'd fought them off until one bullet found its mark. "The rest," he said, "were scattered, maybe dead. You think they'll come looking for you?" Clara asked one night as she spooned stew into a tin bowl. He shook his head. "If they're alive, they'll come. My brothers. Don't quit easy." Clara tried not to hope, but something in the way he said it, steady and sure, made her believe. Days turned into a week. The wound healed slowly, and Luke regained his strength. When he wasn't resting, he helped around the ranch, mending fences or feeding cattle. Clara found herself laughing again, small, forgotten laughs that felt strange in her throat. One evening, they sat on the porch watching the sun sink behind the hills. "You live out here alone?" he asked. She nodded. "Always have. Folks come around sometimes, offer to buy the place, but I can't let go. My pa built this ranch from nothing." "You're tougher than most men I know," Luke said, smiling. "I just do what needs doing," she replied, but her cheeks warmed. Then came the night that changed everything. A storm rolled in fast, fierce and full of fury. The wind howled, rain pounding the roof like 1,000 hammers. Clara was closing the barn doors when she heard the horses shriek, a sound she'd learned to dread. Lightning flashed, and she saw them, 3 shadowy figures on horseback at the edge of her property. Outlaws. She ducked behind a trough as a gunshot cracked through the storm. Wood splintered near her head. She fired back once, warning them. Another shot rang out, then silence. Inside the house, Luke had heard it all. Barefoot, half-dressed, he grabbed her rifle from the wall and staggered into the rain. "Luke," she shouted, "get back inside." "Not a chance," he yelled, firing toward the figures. Another flash of lightning revealed them retreating into the trees. The storm swallowed them whole. When it was over, the barn roof had half collapsed, but the cattle were safe. Luke sank to his knees, soaked and shaking. Clara ran to him. "You damn fool," she said, voice breaking. "You're barely healed." He looked up, rain mixing with blood on his face. "Couldn't let them hurt you." Something in her chest gave way. She knelt beside him, pressing her forehead against his. "You're supposed to be resting, not dying on my porch." "Guess I'm a slow learner," he said with a faint grin. She laughed through tears. "You sure are." They stayed that way for a long time, two souls who had lived too long in silence, finding a piece of themselves in each other. The next morning dawned clear and golden. Clara stepped outside to feed the animals when she froze. Her heart stopped, then began to race. Her entire yard was filled with horses. Dozens of them, beautiful, strong, well-groomed animals of every color. And beyond them, a group of riders approached, their dust rising like a storm of its own. Luke limped out beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "Told you my brothers would come." The riders drew closer, and Clara saw their faces, 5 men, all cut from the same rough cloth as Luke, their expressions fierce with worry and relief. The eldest dismounted first. "You must be Miss Ridge," he said, tipping his hat. "I'm Aaron Harper. My brothers and I owe you more than we can ever pay." "I just did what anyone would do," she replied, still stunned. "Not anyone," Aaron said. "Out here, folks look away. You didn't." He motioned to the horses behind him. "These are yours now. From our herd. A gift, from the Harper brothers to the woman who saved our kin." Clara blinked hard, unable to speak. Luke stepped forward. "They insisted," he said quietly. "Said a woman like you deserves more than dust and silence." Tears welled in her eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll ride with us someday," Aaron said with a smile. "Families meant to stick together." She laughed softly, brushing away a tear. "I reckon I can do that." That night, as the Harper brothers camped near her barn, Clara sat on the porch watching the horses graze. Under the moonlight, for the first time in years, the ranch didn't feel empty. It felt alive. Luke joined her, leaning on a crutch. "You okay?" "More than okay," she said. "I thought I'd lost everything, Luke. My family, my purpose, but maybe I just hadn't found the right people yet." He looked at her, eyes soft. "You found us. That counts for something." Silence stretched between them, comfortable, full of meaning. After a while, she whispered, "You think you'll stay?" He smiled. "You saved my life, Clara. Seems only fair I spend the rest of it repaying the favor." She looked out at the yard full of horses, the living proof of kindness repaid 100-fold, and felt her heart swell. The world could be cruel, but sometimes it remembered to be gentle too. Morning light spilled across the land, warm and forgiving. Clara saddled one of the new horses, a dapple gray mare, and rode to the hill overlooking Ridge Creek. Below, the ranch shone brighter than she'd ever seen it. Luke waved from the corral, his brothers busy mending fences, laughter echoing in the air. The lonely cowgirl was lonely no more. Sometimes, she thought, kindness isn't a debt. It's a seed. You plant it, not knowing what might grow. And if you're lucky, if you're stubborn enough to keep hoping, one morning you'll wake to find your yard filled with horses, and your heart full again. And as the wind danced through the valley, carrying the scent of new beginnings, Clara smiled and whispered to the sky, "Thank you, Pa. Looks like Ridge Creek's got a family again." The land answered with silence, soft and golden, like the world itself was smiling back.